Hey Zwifters, welcome back to another Zwift race analysis video, and today I'm going to be looking at another one of my Zwift races, and this time we're going to be on Crit City, the Bell Lap, racing 8 laps, which is about 10 miles or 22 kilometers, and then that's going to be the Pineapple Torture Fest no power-up race, and this is going to be an analysis of that race, particularly the final 7 miles. The first 2 laps weren't too interesting, and I decided to start it here about to start the 3rd lap. Alright, so coming into that 3rd lap, you can see that I do just get a little plus because there are no power-ups, and we set that first lap time of 2 minutes and 37 seconds, but that was about to get a whole lot faster because one of the riders asked if anybody wanted to do an attack on this 3rd lap. So at the start here on the rollers, we are going to be doing a pretty big attack, and you're going to see me ramp up my power up to 250 now, and it's going to spike up to around 430 watts, and that's going to be in an effort to do a breakaway with this rider from KST, and he is an extremely strong rider. I saw him upon signing up for this race, and I saw that his Zwift power rank was 115, so that is really good, and I knew that he was going to be one of the biggest threats in this race. And something that to also note about him is that he's not much of a sprinter, so that's kind of why he was trying all these attacks, and he had already done a race before this, so his legs were probably a bit tired. You can see that we now have around a 3-second gap on most of the riders, but there are some riders who are chasing us, and right now I'm thinking that this is definitely not going to work, but I'm still doing it because it just makes the race a lot more interesting, and it's always fun to bring up the pace. And something that could always happen when you do an attack or a breakaway is that riders who are in the peloton could start to get dropped, which is actually a good thing for you because it means that you have less competition for the finishing sprint. So even if the breakaway is not considered a success in the sense that you got away as a solo group, you can still drop other riders and accomplish the breakaway in different ways. It's just a matter of what you consider as a success. So I say that that first attack was a success, and I say first because there are going to be a few more. So the timing of the catch was not very great, and they caught us when they already had a lot of momentum going. We didn't have too much momentum because we were only 3 riders going down a descent, so they passed us pretty quickly, and right now I am just kind of struggling to catch back up, and I know that I can catch back up. It's just a matter of where I want to be using my energy at this point in the race because we are only 3.5 miles in, and there is another 6.2 miles left, so there is still a ways to go, and this is just starting lap 4 now, so this is going to be getting to the halfway point. Not much happens on this lap, so I'm just going to fast forward through it because it really is just a mellow lap where we just chilled. And I think that this is actually my first time racing this course in a really long time, and I found it to be pretty easy because of the way that I have gained weight and gained power. So it is easier to go through those rollers when you do have the extra weight, because if you look at the kind of riders who are just rolling over the climbs, those are the heavier riders. Now on to lap 5, we have another attack planned here, and this one was also public, so anyone could join, and I didn't actually see him go yet, so I kind of went early, and he ends up flying right past me, so I end up having to put in a pretty big surge to lock onto his wheel. I bring the power once again over 400 watts just to get that little bit of a surge to really lock onto his wheel, but then I eventually realized that the attack is kind of pointless. You can see that the whole peloton is still swarmed around us because they've learned at this point that they should not be letting this attack go, and it's going to be easier to just stick as a nice blob as we go up this climb. So that's what I end up doing. I settle back down into the group, and this is really a chill part of the course, and I'm actually pretty glad because I honestly think that doing attacks is very helpful for me as somebody who doesn't always have time or feel the need to do a warm-up before a race. So those attacks are kind of like the primers for the race, and I end up feeling a lot better in the finishing sprint once I have put in some pretty big surges throughout the race. Alright, so one important topic that I really want to touch on is positioning, and you can see that as a lighter rider, I don't really do as well on those descents, so something that I really should have been doing is surging as soon as I hit that descent so I can get a closer position towards the front of the group, because you can see that I am straggling off the group for about half of this course, and that's not a good thing because it kind of develops a bad habit and it eventually spirals into a terrible habit when I get to the finish, and I end up being in a terrible position leading into that finishing sprint. So you can see that I am still dangling off the back of the group, and the only time that I actually get back on is right before the little rollers start, when I really know that I need to be in a good position. So one tip for the rollers on this course is to start a bit towards the front of the group, and then once you have a solid draft going, you can kind of just roll through these small rollers, and the KOM I feel is probably the easiest part of the course aside from the descent. After that, just make sure that you have a good draft going into that descent, and you don't want to be caught off guard on the descent, because you got to make sure that you do have a good draft going and you're not slightly off the back, because that can lead to some disaster, and you don't want to be chasing in Crit City because it's a super fast course and very hard to catch up as a solo rider. Coming into lap 7 out of 8, this is actually the bell lap, so it's got the name in it, and I know that riders here, I wasn't expecting any attacks because I haven't seen any in the chat, but I do know that there are some riders here who would like to try to do some tactics and try to see if they can spread the group out a bit, and because I have seen attacks going off the front several times before. Now, a few things to note is that there are some strong sprinters in this group, so I knew that I would need to really give it my all in that finishing sprint, and I knew that breakaways are possible with this group because I know that there are also some riders like the KST rider who don't really have a really strong sprint, so they're trying to cause a split instead. You can see that this lap was a bit harder on that climb. My heart rate got up to a bit over 200, but it really was not too bad compared to the attack. And after that, I got some nice time to just chill and lower my heart rate. You can see that on that one, I had really good positioning, and I never found myself off the back. But I seem to have not really done that in the final lap, because you're about to see that I get caught off the back, and it really ends up spiraling into a deep dark hole because I have terrible positioning in this finish, and that's just a quick spoiler. Alright, coming into that final lap, you can see that there are quite a few riders around me. Not really any riders have actually dropped, and you can see that I'm positioned probably in the middle or so, maybe in the back third of the group, or no, 2/3 of the way to the back of the group, not in the final third of the group, because I knew that I needed to be close to the front just in case anybody tried any attacks. You can see that the group is already stretched, but I expected that to come back together once we hit this little steep part here, and that's kind of when we hit the flats and the group momentum really comes into play. You're gonna see that we do get super close to those riders, but that rider does manage to stay away and continue that rider's breakaway. So you can see that I'm still sitting in pretty nicely, I'm slotted in nicely, and I am keeping a steady power so that I can maintain a good position in the group. 2 riders off the front, it's nothing to worry about, especially with this descent and momentum being such a key thing in this course, because after that descent you have a negative 1% grade or 0% grade, kind of depends on where you are on the lap, but you can see that right here. We're gaining momentum. We're gonna get to around 35 miles per hour by the bottom of this descent, which is really fast, and you can see how well we hold that speed for around 5 seconds or so. We're still going 35 miles per hour, and for the next 10 seconds we keep our speed over 33 miles per hour. So really, momentum is really important. But right here you can see that I do get caught off the back of the group, and this is not where I want to be in this finish, so I really want to be much closer, like where you can see the rider. Watch the rider in the vision kit, because that's the rider who we really want to be watching, who is going to go ahead and have a really strong sprint in the finish. So first rider starts to go. I'm still off the back trying to chase, and I'm holding around 6 watts per kg. Now right here I unleash my sprint, and I kind of just put my head down and give it everything, because I know that I still have the potential to do really well in this race. I was very surprised by how many riders actually passed, and I ended up coming in 5th place, which I think is really good considering the type of riders and the fact that there were no power-ups. traditionally with power-ups I can do really well because I generally have pretty good tactics and can use that arrow boost if I have it in a really good way to help me gain a few slots in the leaderboard. So overall, the key takeaway from that finish was going to be, or is going to be, positioning. And let's just take a look at my power graph real quick. You can see that that first attack is right there, and this second attack's not quite as big, and the rest of it is kind of hovering around threshold. And then that finishing sprint, you can see that I did have a section where I was pushing, and then that's when I started to do my sprint. So it really wasn't optimal for having the best sprint power because I was just draining energy out of my legs trying to catch up. I did get a boost in my FTP, which is really nice and surprising considering I have not been doing much Zwifting and not much cycling in general. Overall, this was a really great and fun race, so I highly recommend checking this series out because these races do happen quite often. And with that, thanks for watching, ride on, and see y'all next time.